Baltimore City Council Budget and Appropriations Committee, we are reconvening budget hearings for the following bills. Number one, ordinance of estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019, for the purpose of providing the appropriations estimated to be needed by each agency of the City of Baltimore for operating programs and capital projects during the fiscal 2019 year. Number two, annual property tax fiscal year 2019 for the purpose of providing a tax for the use of the mayor and city council of Baltimore for the period July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019, providing for estimated billing pursuant to state law and setting semi-annual payment service charge for that period. And number three, operating budget for Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019 for the purpose of approving the budget estimated to be needed for the Baltimore City Board of School Commissioners for operating programs during fiscal 2019, providing for a certification of the approved budget to State Superintendent of Schools, and providing for a special effective date. My name is Eric Costello. I'm chairman of the committee from the 11th District. To my immediate left is Councilman Leon Pinkett, vice chair of the committee from the 7th District. To my right is Vice President of the City Council, Councilwoman Sharon Green Middleton from the 6th District, member of the committee. To her right, Councilman Robert Stokes from the 12th District. And just joining us to my left is Councilwoman Shannon Sneed from the 13th District, member of the committee. And Councilman Ryan Dorsey from 3rd District is out there. Representing Mayor Pugh are Karan Banks and Poetry Deal, Carolyn Sturgis from Bureau of Budget Management Research. We have, I don't know where Kara went. Okay. We're ready to go. CharmTV. Please keep your presentation brief, and
okay.
It's good to see you again for the second day in a row. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for filming all of this on CharmTV.
Oh, well, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think it's a great service to
accolades.
citizens.
We appreciate it.
To not have to come into City Hall and be able to watch this online. So thank you.
Well, great. Thank you. Good morning, Councilman Costello and members of the Budget Committee and guests in council chambers. Again, I'm Tania Lee, and I'm the Executive Director for the Mayor's Office of Cable and Communications, and I'm also the General Manager of CharmTV, shown on Channel 25 and HD on Channel 1085 on Comcast in Baltimore City. I think my presentation will be brief, but before I get into the actual presentation, I did want to share some very good news in that about 2 weeks ago, for the first time ever, CharmTV was nominated for an Emmy Award. And so I wanted to share that with the citizens of Baltimore, and in particular this room, for the budgetary support that we've been afforded over the past 5 years during my tenure. So our budget is actually pretty simple. I think we're looking at about $1.6 million is the recommended budget for this year. I think what's very different from last year's budget, though, is that the amount from general funds is being reduced to about $550,000. And that is basically because the budget is also being supported by 2 grants from Comcast. Yesterday I mentioned that we are continuing to benefit from the operating grant from the new Comcast franchise. And so those funds, in addition to the capital allotment that we'll get this year, roughly account for, I think, a little bit over maybe about $990,000 there. And so I think we are in a good budget position to do quite a number of things this year. You guys might remember that about 4 years ago, we rebranded as CharmTV, and since then have really been running under a dual programming strategy. We obviously focus on government transparency, and at the same time, we're also committed to delivering content and program that really spotlights the essence of Baltimore for not only our citizens, but tourists and visitors to Baltimore. I will say that I think one thing is resonating is our storytelling ability around really telling the real stories of Baltimoreans and what's happening in the city of Baltimore. In addition to that, the Office of Cable and Communications obviously supports media, video, and audio production services for not only citizens, but many of our agencies, constituents have been coming to us for various levels of video and communication support that does help to drive our revenue model. What we're looking forward to doing in fiscal year 19 is continuing on this strategy. I think you'll see us get even deeper into the platforms. We will continue to execute on our Watch Live strategy. I think is probably the second most trafficked area on the website after the homepage. We think that if programmed accordingly, we can really continue to drive a lot of traffic traffic there. But you'll also see a lot more experimentation in social media. I think the world has realized that there is a lot of video growth and traffic on Facebook, and so where that makes sense, we'll continue to do that not only from a transparency perspective. You already see that we do a lot of Facebook Live now because it's a very quick way to get that transparency achieved, but we'll also experiment with other types of content. So as I close out this presentation, I just want to point you to some of our performance measures, and the two that we mainly focus on, they're very simple. It's output, which is around government programming hours. In total, if you look in a year, a schedule 24 hours, 7 days a week, you can program up to 8,400 hours in a year. And so strategically, we focus on 80% of those hours being around the transparency programming and leaving another 20% towards more original content and also ad placement. And we're targeting 6,500 hours in fiscal year 19. You'll see that we've typically exceeded that, but we do put a target that we think is reasonable, but the schedule is somewhat fluid, but we are still committed to the 80% being government transparency. The second factor or performance measure is the efficiency performance measure, which really I think speaks to our multi-platform reach that we've been able to achieve over the past 4 years. That would be the CharmTV sessions. This is measured by Google Analytics, and we have seen probably a 20% growth year over year. I will say that fiscal year 17, the actual number was we probably were about 25% growth. I do think that was an anomaly, and that we had a number of inaugurations that we covered that year, not only for new council members, but also for the mayor, which drove in a lot of traffic in a very short period of time. But as we look forward, we're probably 500 visitors shy or sessions shy of reading our fiscal year 18 target, and we feel very confident we can grow that another 15% for fiscal year 19. And with that, I'm happy to take questions.
I know there's people in the audience saying, "Of course, he has some questions."
Sure.
And I think I only have two.
Okay.
But I just wanted to hear a little bit more about, and another budget book referenced a commitment to YouthWorks.
Yes.
Is that just the financial commitment to YouthWorks, or do actual workers, actually work within CharmTV in some capacity?
Sure. So there are two components. So the $40,000 per year is a financial component and a commitment and a grant from Comcast that my office receives, and we deposit into an account for MOAD for the YouthWorks administration. Historically, absolutely, CharmTV has always had YouthWorks interns. In fact, last year we had 4, and we developed what we called a media opportunity program. And so our interns were able to go on a field trip to Maryland Public Television. They went to the set of Meet the Press in Washington, D.C. We had some etiquette training. We helped them with their resumes. So it was a very exciting program last year, and it's something that we absolutely expect to continue.
I know that Frederick Douglass High School has a pretty substantive media program. Does CharmTV ever do anything with Douglass High School or any of the other high schools in the city?
Well, to date, we have not done anything with Douglass High School, but we have we've been in production for The Avenue, which is our youth teen talk show, and we partner with all of Baltimore City Public Schools to recruit students to participate in that work-study type of program. And so we will be taking a hiatus over the summer, but recasting for the fall, so we can certainly look at Frederick Douglass.
And how would students throughout the city hear or know about that program so they can try
we advertise with Baltimore City Public School, push out a lot of announcements. We push out announcements to the various media production programs that other partner organizations run in the city. We advertise on Facebook. So we spend money to advertise on Facebook to get young people. So those will be some of the things. And we may also look at some type of casting assistance this year to more formalize the program.
Okay. I just had one other question. It was in reference to the I guess it was the public education governmental grant, and it says, and I don't know if it's related to that particular grant, but the budget book notes that we have an account balance in fiscal 2018 at $8.4 million. So
yes.
Is that we actually have $8.4 million now for infrastructure?
So with the Comcast grant, there are 2 allocations that they make. One is around capital support for the PEG stations. And that was, as I mentioned yesterday, we negotiated from a 60 cents per subscriber per month to 1% of revenue in the city, but a floor of 90 cents. So it's roughly like a 45% increase. So each quarter we get that money in a grant and we put it into a separate account as allocated by the Department of Finance. And so it has accrued over, the years of franchises to about $8 million.
And we anticipate $500,000 going into that fund every year?
Well, what happens is my office is allocated about $500,000 out of that fund a year.
And so have we already earmarked expenses or projects related to that $8.4 million? If you did everything that you needed for CharmTV, would you spend $8.4 million in infrastructure?
We are looking at ways to spend it. Obviously, we don't want any money to go to waste. So there are a number of things on the drawing board. I cannot say confidently today that we would use the $8 million. I don't have a full plan developed, but I can say that I can see us at least using a couple million over the next couple of years with some of the things we're planning to do.
And so is there ever opportunity for unsolicited proposals related to expanding access and TV access, where we could talk about how we could use that money?
I'm not sure how that works. I mean, I don't object to it, but I'm not sure how that would work.
Because that's pretty.
It's a lot of money, yeah.
There's a lot of money just sitting there underneath the mattress.
It is. I think it would be a great idea to start to think very creatively of how we can exploit those funds. As long as they're allocated towards public education, government access, they can be used.
And so is there any, for example, could you send me, is there any in writing anywhere that specifies how the money can be used and what it can be used for? Because, that's pretty broad when I look at public education. Well,
I will say this. In the franchise document, it just specifically says PEG, and it says for capital purposes. The FCC has historically interpreted that very narrowly. So it might be buildings, it might be equipment, cameras, things of that sort. Things that can be capitalized. It could be painting. It could be a wall or something of that sort. But that, as far as I understand, is how it's been narrowly interpreted.
So say, for example, I created an after-school program that was focused on TV and production for young people.
That would be operating. It would not qualify.
Well, how about the equipment and the space?
The equipment, if you bought the space, it probably would qualify as capital. If you were leasing the space, no.
Right. So if it was a city rec center that had a program in it for TV production, I could use that money to buy the equipment to outfit that space.
That seems like it could be in play, as long as I would say the caveat might be the content should air at some point on one of the PEG channels.
Well, and then because I have a relationship with CharmTV, we could figure out how to, have a youth program.
Yeah, and also we also run the PEG channel, which is channel 75, which was rebranded as Engage Network, which takes all citizens programming. So that would be an opportunity.
Thank you.
Are you busy on Monday night, June 4th at 6:30? Could you record a council hearing, just asking for a friend?
Okay, is it something already on the docket?
It's not, but it's a budget hearing. So
Okay, we can talk.
Thank you. So much. Just asking for a friend. We had
Sure.
to reschedule, so thank you. Councilwoman Middleton.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I guess my first comment is more of a statement. I guess so far on this panel this morning that's here, or committee, I'm the longest serving, and I've seen, I just want to make note that I've seen the growth in the station and the organization, and it has been a breath of fresh air. You have definitely taken this media to another level. And we all appreciate that on the council. You have always been open to, for us to even do things within our districts, and it's just really been good seeing the progress over the years. So thank you for that, and please continue to keep it moving, because media production is a very expensive thing, and fundraising is, I guess, a part of it. I don't know if that is part of what you do, search for more sponsors to help.
It is under my role. We certainly are focused on that for next year. I think we're hoping that we can do a lot more short form content that can be sponsored, more things that probably would be affiliated with content marketing. So we can, if there's someone that needs content, we execute on the content for them, and they exchange, give us a fee for that type of thing. Absolutely.
My colleague had talked a bit about your connection with the school system. So I do know that in the building of most of these 21st century schools, they have included a media center. Pimlico Elementary Middle will be opening in September, and they dedicated a whole building for media. So
That's great.
When that school opens, I want to connect you with that, because so far I think that is the biggest media center in the new 21st century school, and this is an elementary middle school, and I think they're gearing this towards the 7th and 8th grade.
That's great.
As a curriculum. So I think that connect would be, very helpful. And then also, I think it would be a good idea to, even if it's just one apprentice, there is a curriculum that the state already has. I think many, many years ago, someone had developed some kind of apprenticeship media type thing. I'll connect you with that state specialist at your convenience, just to maybe see if you could start, and it could be just with one person from, that's graduating from a high school or in the 12th grade, and I don't know the whole curriculum,
I welcome that information. Possibly it's something we can integrate in what we're doing with the youth programming with the Avenue.
So again, thank you for what you do, and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you, Councilman Middleton. I do want to also thank the team. We have a very small and mighty team, as you know, and we do a lot with not a great amount of resources, which requires a lot of dedication and a lot of creativity. So I would be remiss without thanking them as well.
And also a shout out to, I forget the gentleman's name, but I know when there are traveling council meetings in neighborhoods, you have to, with the small staff you have to make time to accommodate for, those types of things. So again, thanks.
Thank you.
I'm feeling froggy today. You don't have to worry about me calling any hearings out in the community. I'd like to take a moment to introduce Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark from the 14th District.
Thank you so much.
And
I'm sorry to be late, and I'm sorry
Good morning.
for having an emergency.
Councilwoman Clark's not on the committee, but actually comes to all the Budget and Appropriations Committee hearings, so thank you. And Councilman Brandon Scott. That was a compliment, yes. That was a gold star.
It's extremely
Councilman Brandon Scott from the 2nd District, member of the committee. And now Councilman Stokes.
Just a suggestion. First, good morning. I am working with a good friend of mine, Pete O'Neill from Channel 2, and he's been a cameraman for like 30 years. And the reason why I came with the idea is because the media, the way they follow our young people, they don't follow them in a positive way. They follow them in a negative way. So I'm working with Pete O'Neill. We're going to identify maybe about 12 young people. And we're going to take them to all the TV stations, meet the general manager, to build that relationship. So when our kids do well in school, they start showing up at some of the things that our kids do well. And I wanted to just suggest that maybe Channel 25 bring some of our young kids just to see how that operates. And that's the reason why I want to do it. Also, I've been in a conversation with Lee Michaels. He has a radio show and a gospel show on Sundays. So we are now trying to develop which we call senior conversation about how our seniors come and talk about their issues, but talk about some program they'd like to see. But I like for to partner with you in terms of once we get a structure that you be a part of it. And maybe Channel 25 can do that same segment, talking to our seniors, have a talk show with them to find out again what some of the issues are on some programming they'd like to see, because me and Councilwoman Clark are talking about the senior program that during the Kirk Smoke administration, there was a lot of outreach in terms of senior program and going on trips, but when it went into the health department, to me, it got lost and got swallowed up. So we are now trying to talk about how we can move that out of the health department into Rec and Parks, who actually has this infrastructure and the staff. But just a suggestion I want to give to you in terms of those ideas I came up with, and I want to make sure that I can give you my information so we can sit down and talk about it.
Well,
Thanks.
Conversation was also in the Aging Commission, and Michaels sits on the Aging Commission. So we've been having that conversation in the commission. So I'm glad it's taken to another level and also going to be on that station. A good idea.
So, Councilman Stokes, I welcome both of those conversations, and I'll have someone from my office reach out today to get something scheduled.
Councilwoman Sneed?
Good morning. So I was just wondering, early on, I think last year when we first got in, there was supposed to be, you told us to gather our pictures from when we were younger,
Yes.
and that we would, I'm just wondering whatever happened to that. That was one of my questions.
Right, so we kicked off the series Who We Are, and that's actually the series where we've received an Emmy nomination. So we're currently working on our programming calendar for this year. So it has not gone away. We just had a little bit of a hiatus, which we typically have to take in the cold weather months due to shooting. It's hard to shoot.
And my second question is around, I know the mayor is working on doing her own communications thing, and I'm wondering if you guys were consulted with any of that, and if your staff will be pulled in that direction too to help out with that.
Well, we are generally a part of the communications team, and we do collaborate quite a bit, obviously, to execute on communications for our office. But we were not a part of any of the staffing plans, but we are obviously a part of the team.
Perfect. And the other question is, it's funny that the chairman asked about covering another hearing. I'm just wondering if we ever estimated the cost if all hearings and commissions were actually videoed, if they are here and make it convenient. Is that a...
So let me make sure I understand. Are you asking if we've estimated the cost if we were to cover everything that ever occurs?
In this room, basically, any hearings, yes. Everything.
We have not estimated that. I can certainly give you an actual for the Monday, Wednesday hearings that we definitely cover, and then we typically will cover anything that's obviously topical going on in Baltimore. We're asked to cover. I can give you those historicals, but I think what your question is around, if we were to get a schedule for every single meeting, what would that cost? Was that it? Okay,
Yeah.
we can get that for you.
Okay. And then I'm curious about, never mind. That's it. Thank you, Chairman.
If there are no other questions,
Nope.
thank you, Ms. Lee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
ma'am.
you. This committee is now in recess for 5 minutes, and we'll start at 9:30 with Human Resources.
Do you know what I was Do you remember reading that? No. I'll send you an article in reference to that. I'm sorry. I will have Joe.
It's like the natural, there's going to be a share between the National Portrait Gallery and the National African American Museum. But I saw it on the website.
Yeah.
Do you have a card?
Oh, you know what? I don't. I'm sorry. It's okay. Do you have one? Could I find you guys on the? Okay. Sure. I'll write about 2 people. Let me get off camera and I will address that. Okay. Did he say Sal?
Found these.
Oh my goodness.
What's that still doing in the bag?
Here's one for you. Oh, he asked first.
I'm gonna send you an email.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Obviously that's Estelle. Okay, thank you, Tanya. I appreciate you.
Okay.
And hey, Tanya, seriously, thank you for everything.
Oh, great. Okay. I met your guy, O'Neill. He called me. He's a lovely guy. He's retired, right? Oh. Okay.
How you doing, ma'am?
Okay, I'm pretty sure I met
Outstanding. Thank you.
said.
Okay, I wanted to talk to you. With her and DHR, we went to the treatment plants on Friday. Went to water and wastewater. Okay. And there is an issue with Brenda's
Shannon.
there.
Hey, Shannon, are you going upstairs?
Construction.
Oh, okay.
There was a problem between, being handled by Baltimore County Community College.
Thank you,
So,
thank you.
that caused a
Thank you, thank you.
So I can check with Michael today to find out where they are, but I think they're close to getting it now. I think that caused almost a year delay with them. They didn't have any instructors for a while. Thank you. Yeah, so that's what it was. So, yeah, so I wanted you to know what was going on. Yeah, okay.
Oh my God, they relieved me from duty.
But technically, we're already here. I always feel lonely when I'm with you.